I still remember the sound of my father's palm slamming against the dinner table, the sharp tremor that ran through every plate and glass, the way my mother's smile stayed fixed like porcelain while everything inside me shattered. "Give up your room," she said, her tone soft but firm. "Your sister needs it for her livestream studio." When I didn't answer straight away, my father leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Then get out. If you can't respect your family, you can leave this house tonight." That was the moment something inside me changed. The quiet girl they ignored at every dinner table finally looked up and smiled. Not the kind of smile that meant agreement, but the kind that promised I would never sit at that table again as the same person. / My name is Evelyn Carter, and I was born in Leeds, in a narrow red brick house that always smelled faintly of toast and disappointment. My family loved appearances. They liked neighbors who thought we were perfect, liked polite smiles, liked pretending. But inside those walls, love was a competition, and I wasn't even entered. My sister, Talia, was the golden one, tall, beautiful, and endlessly adored. She had a natural talent for collecting attention, like a magnet for applause. At 10, she was taking dance lessons. At 12, she had a camera crew for her YouTube channel. By 16, she was the influencer everyone talked about. My parents fed that image: new dresses, new phones, new chances. They called it support. My brother, Reese, was the baby. The accident that became a miracle. Every scraped knee was a tragedy, every D on his report card just a phase. They spoiled him because he smiled the way my father once did, before life hardened him. And me. I was the quiet one. The invisible one. The girl who didn't sparkle or sing. I loved books, not lenses. Numbers, not noise. I'd spend hours with my notebooks, sketching equations and tracking imaginary budgets. It was my way of creating order where there was none. / At 13, I got my first job bagging groceries down on Burley Road. I saved every coin in an old tea tin under my bed. I dreamed of buying a computer, nothing fancy, just enough to study finance online. For 2 years, I didn't touch that money. Until one afternoon, I came home to find the tin gone. I searched under the bed, behind the desk, inside drawers, nothing. Then I saw it, Talia twirling in front of a brand new camera, the same brand I'd circled in catalogs, saving for quietly. Mum stood beside her, beaming. She needed it for her future, Dad said when I finally asked. "You'll understand one day." I didn't cry. I learned. That's the day I realized, in my house, talent wasn't enough, it had to shine loudly, or it didn't count. / I worked harder. Studied longer. Every time they clapped for Talia, I wrote another plan. Every time they cheered for Reese, I built another spreadsheet. By the time I was 18, I'd earned a scholarship to study finance at the University of Leeds. My parents didn't even come to the award ceremony. They were in London, supporting Talia at some influencer event. I took 3 buses to university every day. I worked evenings at a cafe, weekends in a small financial office on Albion Street. That office smelled like ink and ambition, tired workers, unpaid bills, people clinging to dignity. I learned more there than in any classroom. I learned how money revealed people. It showed their fears, their dreams, their secrets. I started helping clients quietly, budgeting advice, small investments, explaining terms the banks never bothered to. People began trusting me. At 21, I registered my own company, Carter Financial Consultancy. It wasn't glamorous, just me, my laptop, and a borrowed desk. But it was mine. / My family never asked what I did. To them, I was the boring one. At dinners, Dad would ask Reese about football, Mum would ask Talia about sponsorships, and I'd sit there, listening. When I did speak, it was like throwing words into a well. "Still doing that number thing?" Dad would joke. Talia would laugh. "You should help me with my taxes, Evie. If you ever make it big." Even Reese, sweet but silent, said nothing. So I stopped trying. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped waiting for applause. I built something solid in silence. By 24, I had hundreds of clients, teachers, small shop owners, even a few doctors. I saved every pound I could. No designer clothes, no new car. Just steady growth. While Talia's followers grew in the thousands, my portfolio grew in the millions. And yet, to my parents, I was still the disappointment who hadn't lived a little. ///. The night they told me to give up my room, I'd just come home from a long client meeting in Manchester. I was exhausted, hopeful, and for once, proud. That room, my room, held everything I'd ever built: files, books, the first £10 note I ever saved, the computer I'd bought with my own money. It was more than a space. It was proof that quiet could win. When Dad slammed his hand on the table, something inside me went still. Mum's eyes glittered with expectation. "Your sister's career is taking off, Evie. She needs a proper studio. You can move into the small room by the boiler. It's only fair." "Fair?" I repeated softly. Dad's jaw tightened. "Agree or get out." Talia leaned back, smiling. "It's not like you use it for anything exciting." That's when I smiled back. "You're right," I said. "I don't." But what I didn't say was, I was already planning my exit. Not from the room, from them. ///. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by my desk, staring at the lamp's soft glow. My fingers brushed the surface of the wood, the same desk I'd studied on for a decade. The thought of losing it to Talia's ring lights made my stomach twist. So I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder called Plan C. Inside, property listings, investment returns, savings accounts. I'd been researching for months, waiting for the right trigger. And now, they'd given it to me. At dawn, I called Amelia Brooke, an estate agent in Leeds. "That red brick house across the road," I said, "is it still available?" She checked. "It is." "I'll take it," I said. "Mortgage or cash?" "Cash." She paused. That was quick. I smiled. So was my motivation. By Friday, the deed was mine. Paid. Signed. Stamped. ///. Sunday morning, I went back for our usual family breakfast. The smell of bacon and burnt toast filled the air, the familiar perfume of dysfunction. Mum poured tea like nothing had happened. "Have you thought about what we discussed, love?" I set my cup down. "I have," I said. "I'm moving out." Dad's fork froze mid-air. "Moving out? Where?" I smiled. "Across the street." Talia laughed, until she realized I wasn't joking. Then, right on cue, my phone rang. I put it on speaker. "Congratulations, Evelyn," Amelia's voice chirped. "The house across the street is officially yours. Fastest cash purchase this quarter." Mum's eyes went wide. "You bought a house?" Dad frowned. "With what money?" I looked him straight in the eye. "From that boring number stuff you never cared about." For a second, no one spoke. Even Talia's phone went silent. Mum tried first. "Sweetheart, you don't have to rush. We didn't mean." Dad interrupted. "You've been living under our roof, using our..." I cut him off. "Not anymore." Talia's voice cracked. "You're serious?" I smiled. "Completely." ///. Moving day felt like stepping out of a shadow. I carried boxes filled with ledgers, memories, and quiet victories. My new house was small but mine, the wallpaper peeling, the windows stiff, the air full of promise. That first night, I sat on the floor, eating curry from a takeaway box. It tasted like freedom. The next morning, I brewed tea, stepped onto the porch, and waved across the street. Just once. A small, polite gesture. But it hit them like thunder. The curtains twitched. Dad's silhouette appeared, motionless. Mum's face peeked through, then vanished. Talia didn't show at all. And that became our new routine, me waving, them pretending not to see. .. Then came the unraveling. Talia's perfect world collapsed overnight. Sponsorships withdrew. Followers left. A rival streamer exposed screenshots, online betting, unpaid debts, messages begging for loans. Within weeks, she was trending for all the wrong reasons. My parents panicked. They mortgaged their pride, literally. Sold the family house below value to pay off Talia's debts. They moved into a small flat near Armley Giratory, surrounded by traffic noise and regret. Sometimes, I'd walk past on my way to the office and see Talia outside, scrolling on a cracked phone, eyes red. I never stopped. I didn't need revenge. Life was already teaching her what I never could. .. A month later, there was a knock on my door. It was Reese. He looked older, quieter. "I'm sorry," he said. "For not standing up for you. For pretending not to see." He told me he'd enrolled in college to study engineering. "I want to build something real," he said. I believed him. I helped pay his first semester's fees, not as forgiveness for our parents, but as an investment in who he could become. Sometimes the best repayment is to break the pattern. .. A year passed. My consultancy expanded to Manchester and York. I hired staff, launched free workshops for young women learning finance. My life became steady, structured, peaceful. Then one morning, I got a letter, handwritten, rare these days. It was from Mum. "We miss you," it said. "Your father's health isn't good. Maybe it's time we talked." I folded it, placed it in a drawer, and whispered to the empty room, "Maybe one day." .. Weeks later, I hosted a housewarming party, the one I'd postponed for a year. My friend Priya Nolan, the only person who loved spreadsheets as much as I did, helped set it up. There was laughter, jazz music, warm lighting. Priya raised her glass to Evelyn, who turned a tiny room into an empire. Everyone cheered. I smiled, quietly. From my porch, I could see my parents' old house, now painted white by the new owners. The curtains fluttered in the evening breeze, and for the first time, I felt no bitterness. Just peace. .. Some nights, I still think about that dinner table, the ultimatum, the silence, the fork halfway to my lips. I realize now that they didn't exile me. They freed me. If you've ever been the quiet one at the loud table, if you've ever been told to shrink so someone else could shine, remember this. You don't have to fight for your seat. You can build your own table. When they told me to give up my room or get out, I didn't choose either. I chose the third door, the one only I could see. Now, every morning, I step out onto my porch, sip my tea, and wave. Not out of spite, but closure. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't leaving. It's living so well they have to watch. .. If this story found you at the right time, like, share, and subscribe. And tell me, if your family gave you the same ultimatum, would you stay, would you fight, or would you smile, and buy the house across the street?